Hello everyone, welcome to Canteen Cup. My name is Scott. I know I've been away from my YouTube channel for a while, but a couple things have happened. One, I've gotten a little busy. This time of year is when we start planning the upcoming year, so we've been involved with that. I'm going to a new system of planning, and I may or may not talk about that in a future video. We'll just see how this new version goes. And then in January, I had some internet issues. I've had internet issues in the past, and when we finally got the bulk of it resolved, I still had a lot of data that I had to upload into the cloud, where I have a cloud storage. And I used up a lot of my data. And what happened was, the last couple days of last week of my data period, I pretty much ran out of data, so I had to wait for it to reset. Hopefully that won't happen again, because now I'm keeping everything up to date. For those that don't know, several months ago, AT&T, who is my internet provider, not my direct internet provider, but the provider's provider, if that makes sense, really strangled us. And I had to turn off a lot of my services and had to cut down on my YouTubes and everything else while we resolved it. And now I think we've got it going, and hopefully I won't run into these problems again. Anyhow, that's the country life, and that's you know, it is what it is. So we learn to deal with it. And you know, if I disappear for a while, have faith, I'll be back. A couple things I wanted to talk about today, and then briefly, you know, let's talk about your personal finances, and are you in a good position? And what I mean by that is, you know, we are seeing unprecedented government spending, and they're printing money as fast as they can print it. Typically what happens, well, and you couple that with extremely low to, in some instances, negative interest rates, and that leads to a surplus of money. And in normal economics, that often leads to a devaluation of the dollar, or as some people may know it, as inflation of a dollar. That means your dollar is worth less. How much less? Well, that depends. If you look at countries like Venezuela, who we're kind of walking down their same path, when their market crashed, I read somewhere where their dollar, them it's a bolivar, the Venezuelan bolivar, it devalued something like 900,000%. If you look at the Iraqi dinar, that had a very steep devaluation. If you go back further to 1930s Germany, when they had hyperinflation, blue-collar workers were bringing their paychecks home in a wheelbarrow. So could that happen here? Maybe. So what are you doing to combat that? And and there's many schools of thought, and I'm not preaching one way or another, but you need to be able to move your money into something that maybe won't spend as well, but it'll hold its value. I recommend you have cash on hand. How much cash? That's up to you. I recommend you take some of your money and put it into other things. And you know, this is not, I'm not saying do this, but I'm just giving you some ideas that you can put it into precious metals, and or you can put it into cryptocurrency. I know there's a lot of people out there that are against cryptocurrency, but in today's world, the US dollar is cryptocurrency. You know, money is transferred electronically, and it's probably using the same type of blockchain. So, you know, your money that you hold in your hand, your US dollar, your paper dollar, and even the coins minted after about 1964, you know, it's really kind of funny money anyhow. It's not worth what it is. And so all I'm saying is that do your research and make informed decisions. But be careful. And the last thing I'm going to say is be careful about leaving too much money in the bank, because when the markets crash, you know, they'll shut down the stock exchange, and then they'll close the doors on the banks where you can't get your money out. And remember that banks do not have enough cash in their vaults to pay out everybody if there's a run on the bank. And a run on the bank means everybody at the same time runs and draws all their money out. That's called a run on the bank. And banks today don't have near as much cash to be able to do that. So think about it, and think about how you're going to overcome that, you know, on a temporary basis and maybe even a semi-permanent basis. And don't be foolish. All right, getting back to the topic of today, I'm continuing my series on communications, and today we're going to talk about tactical communications, and in this case we're going to talk about tactical HF communications. Now I want to start off, I'm going to show you kind of what I have, and then I'm going to set up an antenna and let you see how it looks. So this is my tactical communications box. Okay, everything fits in that box except for this push-up hole, for obvious reasons. And this is the same push-up hole I used when I did the tactical UHF VHF antenna. And then this right here, this is an old Army surplus HF antenna. I believe it was for the Prick 47, and that's a PRC 47. I'm not absolutely positive, but that's where I think it came from. And this was designed to operate in the 2 to 10 megahertz range, which for HF tactical communications, that's where we want to be. Now with these antennas, I had to make an adapter. I had a machine shop make this for me, because the threads on the antenna itself are 3/8 16. Most antenna connectors today in the civilian market are 3/8 24. So I had a machinist make this for me. He could just do it faster and easier and probably cheaper than I could have. So all this over here fits inside this box, and all this except for this fits in this bag. And I'll go over what these are, and what I plan to do is I'll go over this stuff, and then I'll set up a tactical HF antenna, and you can see kind of how it looks. Okay, this is part of the vertical antenna that I'm going to create. These are two 60-foot wires, and they can be either used as a radial wire, or they can be used as a dipole, or they can be used as an end fed, one being the radiating element, and then the other a reflector that you put on the ground, and I'll do those in another video. This is a ground stake that we're going to use today. This is a transformer, and I believe it's what they call an un, which is a unbalanced, and this is what helps make that antenna work. This is what's called an RF choke, and what you do with this is you take it and you put it in line between your antenna and your radio, and it prevents RF from going back into the radio and creating all sorts of havoc. This is just an assortment of ropes. I probably have more than I need in here, but it doesn't take up as much space. Here's that black electrical tape I talk about that I use a lot, and then some extra connectors. And then this is an 8-ounce weight attached to some brightly colored string. And what this is used for, this is a throw weight, and what you'll do with this is you will take it and you'll throw it up into a tree over a limb, and that'll go down the other side, and then you can hoist an antenna up, and that would work like if you were trying to use an end fed antenna and get it up higher in the air. You'd use this. Very handy. There's many ways we can set this up. Today I'm only going to set it up one way, and then in future videos I'll set it up a couple different ways so you can kind of see what's going on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and stop the video, And I'm gonna go ahead and set this up and then let you see what it looks like when it's completed, because you really don't want to watch me put this up. It's not all that hard, and it's not a lot of fun to watch. So everybody hang on, I'll be back. Alrighty, well, I set this up. It took me maybe 5 minutes. Just getting close. Down here is that rod. Here's that transformer. And then here's the adapter I had made. And then here's the antenna. The antenna, well, it's probably about 15 foot in the air. And then over here is the radio. It's attached, it's in between the transformer and the ground stick on a 3/8 lug. And I just send it out, I don't know, that's probably 15 feet. And then here's the choke. And then this is at 25 foot of coax. A couple things. Driving that stake into the ground, I did not use metal on metal. You can see over there I had some split wood. I just took one and drove it in. Whatever you use, you want to use something much softer than it. It goes in pretty easy. So this is it. You know, pretty straightforward, pretty easy. I think this will take up to 100 to 150 watts. And while I didn't say it before, in that box I have an ICOM IC7000 radio, which is a shack in the box. It's not the best, but it fits in there, and it gives me some HF, it gives me HF, VHF, and UHF in a small package. And so when you're talking about bugging out and loading your car, you don't have, I'd love to bring my whole station with me, but if I can't, I know I can bring that and that'll fit. Most of the parts made here are by a company called Chameleon, and I'll put a link down in the comment section below. The antenna, like I said, was an Army surplus antenna. I got it about 10 years ago and just never messed with it until I started fooling with this. But I think it'll probably take 100 watts. Most of the times when you're operating from the field, you don't want to use a full 100 watts because it really drains your battery. I typically run somewhere at the max around 40 watts. I did sweep this antenna with a miniature, a nano VNA, a nano vector network analyzer, and between 1.5 megahertz and 7 megahertz, this thing, the highest SWR on this was like 2.6. So in this particular instance, on these frequencies, which are kind of the ones we want to use for tactical communications, I can hook this up to a radio and use the built-in antenna tuner in the radio to tune this. It will tune. However, I normally use an external, like an LDG antenna tubes. I like them better, but this will tune to whatever antenna tuner you have, as it's less than 3 to 1. So that's really what I wanted to show you. It's not real complicated. The radio I just sent out 15 or so feet, but it will work. I can send it out the full 60 foot. I can hook both of my, I have 2 of those, and I can hook both of them out and have a little bit more of a better ground system. However, for tactical communications, set up, do it, and break down, this is pretty sweet. You could replace this with Chameleon has some antennas you could buy. They're kind of pricey, or you could buy a 17-foot telescoping whip from MFJ. I think they're about 60 or 70 bucks. Or you can, and really you could take a wire, throw a wire up in the air. This also serves, the ground spike also serves as a ground for you too. when setting up your radial, typically for this type of setup, the directionality of the radials is not that important. I've heard some people say that it is slightly more directive to whatever direction you send your radial in. It's radial in, but I don't think it's that important. So take that with a grain of salt. If all you can do is send it that way, then send it that way. You know, you'll do just fine. Like I said, I'll post some of this stuff, but I really kind of like this. Like I said, I bought this antenna probably 10 or more 15 years ago. I think I bought 2 of them for like 25 bucks, and I happen to have it. So you don't have to go out and get one of these to make this work. You can buy, like I said, some of the stuff from Chameleon. They have a lot of good stuff for portable antennas. Or like I said, you could buy a 17-foot antenna, telescoping antenna. It looks like a big walkie-talkie antenna, and put that up there instead. As long as you have a 3/8 24 thread to screw into your transformer or your Unnen. So that's it. Tactile HF. Another bonus is if you are operating from your vehicle, your privately owned vehicle, one thing you can do for a really good ground system is attach this piece down here to some bare metal on your truck and or car, and that makes a really good ground. It's amazing. If you just set this up alongside your vehicle and then maybe get some alligator clips or something, put one end there, one end on your vehicle, and you have a ready-made ground. You don't have to string nothing out. Works really well. All right, I wanted to share again. Sorry for the absence, but things happen, and we're just kind of busy right now. I hope you guys are thinking and planning. It's really important to think and plan and try to get it as right as you can, because I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I really don't. It's kind of, I'm not going to say scary yet, but it's at least spooky. So continue your preps, continue to take care of your family, take care of your friends, take care of your community, and stay safe and stay secure.